故事从简单开始，逐步提升，持续下来，你会惊讶自己在不知不觉中理解更复杂的英文文章。故事开始。
My dad's hometown is about 2 hours from our home. It is a small farming village. I like it because it is quiet and peaceful. When I was old enough to ride a motorcycle, I often went there alone during winter and summer vacations. My grandparents were always happy to see me, but the last time I went there was more than 10 years ago. Something strange happened, so I stopped going. It was just after Lunar New Year. The weather was nice. I rode my motorcycle to my grandparents' house. It was still a little cold, but the walkway near the yard was warm from the sun. I sat there, enjoying the sun. I felt very comfortable. Suddenly, I heard a pop-pop sound, like someone calling me. Before I could see where it came from, I noticed a hat moving on the wall. The hat was not resting there. It moved slowly forward and passed through a crack in the wall. The hat belonged to a woman in a white dress. The wall was very tall, about 2 meters. Very few people could be tall enough to show their heads above it. How tall was she? I was shocked as she walked past and soon disappeared. The pop, pop, pop sound gradually faded. At the time, I thought maybe she was a very tall woman, or perhaps a man wearing thick shoes and dressed as a woman. Later, in the living room, I drank tea and told my grandparents I had seen a very tall woman. They calmly said, "Oh, I see." I could not understand it. Someone taller than the wall, wearing a hat and making strange sounds. I could not explain it. Suddenly, my grandfather became very serious. He asked me the time, the place, and how much taller she was than the wall. I told him everything honestly. After a moment of silence, he walked into the hallway and made a phone call. My grandmother stood nearby, shaking. When my grandfather returned, he said, "You will stay here tonight. You cannot go home now." I panicked. I wondered if I had done something wrong, but I could not think of anything. I did not go to find her. She came on her own. My grandfather went to bring Granny Kay and asked her to take care of me for now. My grandmother then told me about Hashaku-sama, the 8-foot-tall woman. She appears as a very tall female figure, about 8 feet tall, and makes a pop-pop-pop sound. The form she takes can be different. Sometimes a young woman in black clothes, sometimes an old woman in a kimono, or a middle-aged woman. But she is always very tall, wears a hat, and laughs strangely. The legend says she came from another place, but was sealed here by Jizo statues. She cannot leave the area. If someone is lured by her, they might meet a bad fate within a few days. The last known sighting was about 15 years ago. The village has Jizo statues in all directions to block her. They also made agreements with nearby villages, like sharing water. Because these events are rare, people thought the rules were safer than ignoring them. Even after hearing all this, it felt unreal. Soon, my grandfather returned with Granny Kay. The situation became urgent. They took me to a room on the 2nd floor. Newspapers and talismans were taped over the windows. Salt was poured into the 4 corners of the room. A wooden box was used as an altar and a Buddha statue was placed on it. My grandfather gave me 2 chamber pots and told me to use them if needed. He warned me not to leave the room until 7 o'clock the next morning. My grandmother stayed in the room but could not talk. I had to follow the rules alone. I obeyed. I held the talisman and prayed. I was too scared to sleep. Around 1 in the morning, I heard knocking at the window. I told myself it was just the seal working and tried to watch TV. Then I noticed the salt on top turning black. I felt panic. I held the talisman tightly and kept praying. By morning, the sounds stopped and the salt in the room had turned completely black. I checked the time and slowly opened the door. My grandmother and Granny Kay were outside, crying and saying, "Thank goodness." My dad had arrived too. My grandfather urged me to get into the truck quickly. The truck was full of male relatives. My grandfather sat in front, my dad behind me. They formed a line to protect me. Granny Kay chanted sutras during the trip. There were still strange sounds outside, but I kept my head down, eyes closed, and held the talisman tightly. The truck did not stop until Hashaku-sama was gone. Granny Kay gave me a new talisman and told me to carry it for a while. Only then did I feel safe. Later, my dad told me that when he was a child, Hashaku-sama once caused the death of one of his friends. Some people moved away because of her. The men in the truck were my grandfather's relatives. They were arranged in a special way to confuse her. Because I saw her at night, my grandfather made me stay until morning so I could get home safely. In the worst case, my grandfather or my dad might have been hurt instead of me.